In this video, I'll talk about how to answer the question of what's your weakness in the context of a job interview. First, as some of you may already know, the most commonly used weakness in job interviews today and likely for the past 10 years or so is public speaking, right? So it works for almost any role. It's the most generic of all. It won't disqualify from the job either, but it won't help you too much. Okay, and also maybe interesting for you to know is what people used to do in the past when answering the weakness question. There used to be a trend to answer this question with an actual strength the candidate had. So to give an example here, I am a demanding boss. Okay, in a project I managed just recently, team had concerns about me being a demanding leader, especially when it came to meeting challenging deadlines. However, the project went well. It got completed 20% faster than I had originally planned for, and the product launch was a success. Okay, so notice here how being a demanding boss is actually a strength here that the candidate acquired recently. Okay, when the interview question was, what's your weakness? Right? So this is what's called turning a positive into a negative. Okay, fake it until you make it attitude, right? However, there's one thing I really like about the approach, that is, in spite of using a fake weakness, the candidate uses the opportunity to sell themselves on their strength, okay? And from experience, not many of you are able to achieve this during job interviews. Now, fast forward today, expectations have evolved when it comes to answering the weakness question. And interviewers now really expect you to provide an actual weakness. And as you'll see next, it's perfectly feasible to provide an actual weakness and still sell yourself on your strength, right? Now, here's an approach to find the best weakness for your role. Step one, think about what is your core area of expertise, okay? That one thing you must be good at. So, for example, a developer has to code, a salesperson has to sell, a marketing specialist should know how to advertise, okay? Or a non-technical PM would have to know a thing or two about managing cross-functional teams. And, the list goes on. Now, step two, after determining what's your core area of expertise, think about what is the complete opposite of what you're supposed to be good at. Okay, so to give a couple of examples here, a back-end developer isn't supposed to know much about sales or marketing or advertising in general. Okay, a sales representative is unlikely to know how to code or to run a Linux server or to administer an Oracle database, right? And the same goes for most roles. Okay, now once you find one or two areas opposite to your area of expertise, think of something you're genuinely interested to learn, or ideally have already started learning, and basically use that as your weakness, right? So, for example, I recently talked to someone going for a manager role in AI and machine learning engineering at Apple. And we had a discussion about what could be the best weakness she could use during the interview. And one of the more interesting ideas was to go with deeper technical machine learning or AI expertise. Okay, just to be clear here, the role is to manage other PMs. Okay, so cross-functional teams. So using something purely technical as a weakness is a perfectly feasible option in this case. Okay, and of course here, to the extent that there is genuine interest of acquiring knowledge of AI and machine learning in this instance, right? Another idea to find the best possible weakness could be to spot something peculiar about your specific role or CV. For example, if you've only worked for large organizations, you could pitch working in small businesses as a weakness you have. And by the way, you could pitch it as if you're learning about how to work in small businesses via some volunteering initiative. Okay. Or another one here would be in bilingual countries like Canada or Belgium, not knowing the other language, okay, French or Flemish, that case, okay. And now just quickly, a few more maybe dangerous options to consider, but this is very much depending on the role and the examples you'd want to pitch in particular. One would be delegation. Okay, I'd never use this for a manager level role, but definitely an option if you're going for an individual contributor role. Okay, or another dangerous one, you are too honest or you attempt to please everyone. Okay, so while this could work for entry level roles, it's certainly not a good idea for executives. Okay. And last but not least, if you want one I had been constantly using as an example, that would be assertiveness or being too direct. Okay, so for example, this happened while running a software business, and one of the first time I talked to my PM, she was working for me remotely, I unintentionally made her to cry because I was too direct and insensitive. Okay, and this is how I learned to respect other people's cultures and way of thinking, which, by the way, also helped me to work with her for the next 6 years. Okay, all in all, the best candidates will focus less on the actual weakness and more on the specific story they could present as a learning experience. And the reason for this being that the best candidate in a behavioral interview is always the one with the best stories. Okay, so hopefully you found this information useful, and thank you very much for watching.